Mom, Dad, I humbly suggest you save some money and shop Amazon for back to school. It's for my growth, meaning my body's growing at an alarming rate. And clothes you buy me this year will be very small very soon. Plus, the clothes I love today will be out of style tomorrow. But at least your wallet doesn't have to be my fashion victim if you shop low prices for school at Amazon. Hopefully this is helpful. Amazon. Spend less, smile more.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transfer Podcast. I'm Trev Downey. I am, of course, joined by Dave Davis to talk about the latest state of events in terms of comings and goings at LFC across the Premier League and Europe-wide. Dave, how you doing, my friend?
Good, mate. Very good. Very excited. It's proper kicked off, hasn't it, as they'd say. So, yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it has and it hasn't. So I'm very curious to get your take on this because I've decided to spend the last couple of weeks of my holidays up to my oxters in decorating and painting. So I have taken my eye off the ball massively. In fact, I didn't even bother breaking away from yesterday to have a go at any of the two friendlies. Even though I had access to watch them, I was just busy. And so I only have what I'm seeing when I tune into the Twitter machine. And man, there's a lot of dark pessimism going around about the Zubamendi thing. It seems to be absolute close down on anything to do with a defender. So I'm hoping you can sort of hopefully have something that is a little bit of a balance to that. Let's start with Zubamendi because the latest I've seen, and you can tell me if this is wrong, is that his clubs seem to be forcing his hand in terms of something to do with him having to trigger his own release clause. And obviously there'd be some sort of weird financial shenanigans in order for that to happen, but all perfectly legal, of course. But it seems as if they really are putting the pressure on him to make the decision to walk away from them. Am I picking that up right, do you think?
Yeah, I think you absolutely are. I mean, what a few days, even over the weekend, it's been on this, Trev. It's unbelievable, this one. It reminds me of when the Council of Nicaea sat down to decide what should go in the Old and the New Testament, the Bible, and someone said, which they didn't print, will some fucker just make a decision here? Because that's what it feels like at the moment, doesn't it? We've literally had it all. I mean, since his name broke, we then had the worry like, have we Caicedo'd this? Does the player want it? It's become clear through various reports, absolutely we've spoken. We've done our own sort of charming, really tried to make the pitch to him, and the player was in on it. Then, Real Sociedad have obviously gone on the charm offensive, as the phrase is. And I've heard the charm offensive, used so much in recent days. And they've been showing him all sorts, Trev, haven't they? They've been showing him Microsoft PowerPoints involving like paella, their mountains in the background, all sorts of things. They've gone nicely, you know, really trying to pull the emotional heartstrings that like your life's here, your friends, your family, you've turned it down before. It's easy just to say no like you did to Arsenal and all the others. I get that. I kind of get that. However, today was an interesting development for me, Trev. It's the fact that, as Paul Joyce reported it, Sociedad are now telling him, well, you have to trigger the buyout clause. Simple as that. That is not a charm offensive, isn't it? That's almost like a threatening, like playing chicken a little bit, so to speak, and almost wanting to be, well, you're going to have to play the bad guy if you want to go. And there's been all sorts of educational bits as well, hasn't there? People unsure of, right, what's the difference between a release clause? What's the difference between a buyout clause? Fortunately, we've got people like Mo Chatra, haven't we, who's explained it all. And for a buyout clause particularly, it has to be terminated at La Liga office. It's almost as though you're buying out your contract that way. So there was a bit of debate, because the article suggested that Zubimendi would have to do it, as rock up himself to La Liga offices. Imagine that big drama if something like that played out in the Premier League. But actually, a lot of the reports are now saying it can be an intermediary, an agent, something like that. But there's two things to this. Number one, spoofers are getting in on the act. And I mean this, Trev. People saying all sorts of little no real story updates. Goes, he's keen, but he's torn. I mean, that's nothing, isn't it? We can all just say that. And I want to be genuine, people, on this. When we've been asking around, doing the business, everyone's the same. It's Zubimendi's decision. He's going to make it when he makes it, and it's going to be communicated. But no one's definite on it yet. I want to say I'm positive with today's development, as in it does sound like, to me, the charm offensive has failed. So now they're going heavy-handed. A bit of almost emotional threatening. And I get it to an extent. This isn't to villainize Real Sociedad. I get why they're trying to do it. We've done it with our players to a similar extent before. However, he either will or he won't, to be honest, Trev. And all the talk of deadlines, Paul Joyce has said, a few others suggested that Wednesday was definitely there. It's not like they said, right, Wednesday, 9 o'clock or nothing, but it has been intimated, we need to make a decision because either you come in or we move on to targets. And naturally, as most people do with jobs and things, don't they say, we'll give you the weekend. So you kind of get the impression that Liverpool were maybe thinking, Monday we might get a definitive call. And listen, there's still time on Monday, so we might still get a definitive call. I don't think we're going to have too long to wait. And the word patience is not something anyone wants to hear at the moment. I get that, with a few weeks the window's left at the same time. So I understand that. But we can't guarantee anything. I'm just being honest. We just don't know. The journos don't really know. No one's certain on this apart from Zubimendi and the people close to him, which means practically no one. It's a closed circle, isn't it? So we'll get his decision. We'll see what it is. And I don't think we'll have to wait too long.
So I saw something today where Wednesday was being spoken about. Was that part of one of these Paul Joyce tweets? It's the latest thing, and of course it's caused everyone to start pulling out their hair. Why Wednesday? Why is it taking so long? And I've nothing but empathy for people who are getting frustrated about this, because while we're doing this, there's still no talk about Bastoni or anyone else coming in for that defender spot, which is immensely frustrating. If one isn't getting over the line, you'd imagine they'd be doing all they could to force the other. What's the deal with this Wednesday crap? Is this a Twitter invention or is it real?
There's been quite a few sources, I think it's fair to say, that even local reports, Spanish reporters intimated Wednesday. I think if you look at Paul Joyce's article, he's commented on that to say there has been a lot of suggestions Wednesday, and whilst that isn't a definitive deadline, Liverpool are, encouraging to make a decision ASAP. There's two things to be for this, Trev, because everyone's getting hung up. I was like, is it Wednesday? I don't think it is Wednesday specifically, but let's be honest, if he gets to Wednesday and he's not made a call, someone's going to go Martin, what the fuck are we doing here? Yes or no? It's got to happen eventually. He's had the weekend. He knows all the stances. And to be honest as well, I've seen other things about contracts. They have made him an improved offer, but the other thing to mention is, from asking around, their improved offer isn't near our offer. But I'm saying a but a lot tonight. I appreciate it's not. I don't think it's a financial decision purely, is it really, Trev? It's about his boyhood club, the connection he has. If he's going to move, he's got to be certain, if you want, or ready for the project. He's got to make that call. I don't think it's just a financial call by any means. So, yeah, Wednesday. It's kind of is it true? No, it's not true. But let's be honest. If we don't hear something by Wednesday, we'll both be astonished.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, the fact that it's so hidden, all the details of it, there's nothing concrete coming out about, well, even just a specific sentence along the lines of, he's really torn because he's such an emotional connection to this place. Those feelings aren't necessarily being attributed to them. They're being speculated about. as people are searching for what could possibly be holding this up, So it is all so spectacularly vague. And like I say, meanwhile, no solid moves on a Bastoni or someone else to keep the fan base pecker up, So it is. It's a frustrating time, but we'll, now that this Wednesday thing's been magicked up, I guess we'll give it till then. I'm not going to put you on the spot like old Brian Moore did with Kevin Keegan years ago in an England penalty shootout, and ask you what you think is going to happen here, because it's like you say, we're less than 48 hours away from this imagined deadline. So let's just hold our hopes and see what happens, and we'll do the same with the defender, I guess, because we've nothing new, unless I'm mistaken here, judging by the agenda you've set me on. We've got nothing on that, do we?
No, nothing on there. A centre back, left back. Again, it's kind of like little bits of names that we mentioned before, but nothing solid, nothing Zubamendi level by any means.
So with that being the case, let's turn our attention to what we know is solid, and that seems to be the kind of train leaving Anfield in terms of players out. And it's starting to look like that's going to be very much the way of things. We have Bobby Clark involved. We've got Endo involved. We've got Step involved. We've got our friend Fabio Carvalho involved. So much going on here in terms of lads going out the door, from deals which look to be done to deals which look to be imminent, to lads who are starting to get a bit shirty that that deal hasn't been done. Meanwhile, I do notice not a word for our friend Nat Phillips. So sad. Talk to me about what we do know and about the deals that are getting done or edging closer to being done, at least.
Oh, Trev, there's that much for sale at Anfield. I wouldn't be surprised if, like DFS, if you buy a centre-back or something, they sort of throw in 2 years worth of sofa protect or scratch protection or something like that, because the outgoings are mounting up. So Fabio Carvalho, that's the closest, isn't he? He's at Brentford doing his medical. Wouldn't even be surprised if it's announced sort of tonight, within the next 48 hours. But a good deal, I think, overall. And I'll explain a bit more, but up to 27.5 million with add-ons, so that's important to say, and a 17.5% sell-on clause in there as well. So that's the first one. That's closest to being done. Bobby Clark, we mentioned it the other week, and there was a £6 million bid rejected. There was another one rejected for 8.2 million. There's now another one on the table for around £10 million, a third bid. The talks between Red Bull, Salzburg, and us have just continued and continued. So that's the live one. Ben Doak, it looked like it was a loan for all intents and purposes, and that's what it was reported. Then over the weekend, again, it kind of came out that Liverpool would countenance a permanent loan, or a permanent deal even, for the right fee. So that one's interesting. Having all three of those fully stand up, and I'll come back to them a little bit as to what's going on. Sep's interesting because he did play a minute, did he, yesterday? And Arne Slot said, it's load management. I think we know what that is a load of, Trev. Let's just be crystal clear on that, because, Ibu Konate also played 45 minutes against United, then played pretty much a full game against Las Palmas. It's not load management. There have been a lot of offers for Sep, a lot of offers. However, they fall well below the 20 million starting point. And just to be clear, that is the tag Liverpool have given it. They would accept probably a bit less, but you've got to get close. However, having, asked and got information, all the offers are falling well below Liverpool's. We'll have a discussion, shall we say, starting points. And all these clubs who were doing it through the Dutch media, like Feyenoord and PSV, almost trying to plead poverty. It's that's a bit outside our price range. We're not going to lower the price for you. Do you know what I mean? If there's 7 or 8 clubs interested, then Liverpool, are waiting for someone to meet a discussion point at least. And I mean, the clubs that have asked about, both the Dutch clubs, we know Wolfsburg have inquired, Stuttgart have even inquired as well. like Stuttgart, for instance, a Champions League club, so they're not going to be short of a penny. So Liverpool are letting it be known, like, stop wasting our time a little bit with Sepp. You know what the fee is. And even yesterday, there was, we had an update that a bid had come in, but again, fell short of the negotiating point. Not necessarily because it's going to have to be 20 million exactly, but give us something to negotiate and discuss with, as it were. So yeah, Sepp, I think we'd both be surprised. Endo, he is digging his heels in. That is all the reports we've got, that he's been told clearly, your minutes are going to be super duper limited. I mean, you look at the games yesterday, Grav started, didn't he, as in the first lineup. We've seen Jones also play the 6. They're looking to bring one in naturally as well. So say Zubimendi does come in, there's still Bajcetic. Not that he needs to be a 6 before I get into that debate, but there's a lot of options before Endo. It's really difficult to see where his minutes will come from. And the club have made that clear to him. However, all the info we're getting is yeah, I'm aware of that, etc. I'll fight, I'll change your mind type of thing. So whether we like that or not, I suppose I could say there's a bit of a nobleness to that. Like, fair play, they might try and bomb him out. We'll have to see. This is the big point, though, Trev. There is almost a ruthlessness, a sea change to the way we're doing business now. If you think last season, it was all about, under Klopp, loyalty, growing the spirit, all those things, and people would say that's a weakness, the loyalty, we could get into that debate. But look at the academy lads. You think back to that Carabao final, don't you? Do you remember how many were there in the photos and they're all having an impact? Now, they're all looking at the Carabao lads and all the youngsters and going, are they good enough to get in our first team? And just to be clear, the first team squad, if you don't get in Liverpool's first team squad, it does not make you a bad player. For instance, Fabio Carvalho is not a bad player. It's just that he's maybe not going to be playing regularly for Liverpool, so they've made that call. Bobby Clark, similar as well. And from asking, as we do, suggestion being that they are struggling to see a pathway for Bobby Clark, hence the countenance of a permanent deal, because he's not really a 6, he's not really a 10, he's an 8. But if there's one position we've got 1,000 of, it's 8s at the moment, as we know, isn't it, Trev? So there's that difficulty. Ben Doak as well. Will he raise that end product? As in, he can beat a man in his sleep, but can it, it's a big leap. So that's why everything's being looked at. And it might seem harsh, but maybe just think that there's a lot of talented youngsters at Liverpool, as there maybe were by the time this comes out, like Carvalho, Clark, etc. However, maybe to be a real option in the first team, you do have to be a Quansah, Bradley, even Trey Naomi looks special, doesn't he, from like the bits we've seen as well. So maybe the bar just is that high that the people in charge are looking at it and going, is there a real pathway to the first team? Almost like a flow diagram, isn't it? If it's no, what are the options? And it may seem more ruthless, but you could argue that maybe it's a bit more realistic and pragmatic. Who knows? You can't keep, not every single youngster will make it, and you can't keep them all. I like Bobby Clark. I'm quite a fan of him, and from what I've seen, he does a lot of good to me on the pitch. But if the powers that be don't think there's a pathway to the first team for him, it is what it is a little bit. So I know that's an awfully long answer there, Trev, but I wanted to cover all the bases. And as you can see, there's a lot going on in terms of outgoings.
No, I'm glad you did. And I do believe, unless I missed it, we also have to fold in Kay Gordon and Young Kumas into this as well in terms of loans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Kay Gordon, pretty much expecting that to go through to Swansea. So unless anything's changed, but I think that's a great loan for a player that they like a lot, has a lot of technical ability, but has just had an injury nightmare. So it's interesting that no permanent deal was even countenanced or considered for Kay Gordon. They've got a lot of interest in him still, which is great. I think he's a talent. Lewis Kumas signed a new deal. They're now on loan to Stoke, so he'll be in the Championship. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on. And Jayden Dans, obviously, he was looking at Plymouth, wasn't he, at one time, and there were others in for him. Injury, I'm afraid. So about 2-3 months, possibly. It could be in a worst-case scenario. We'll have to see how he heals. But, yeah, he was one that You never know what could have happened with Jayden Dance because we're speculating a bit. But yeah, he looked like he's another one on loan. But it might even be they wait till he comes back, maybe later in the year, give him a chance and make a decision in January for him.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with Multiview, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
What's your gut feeling on all of this flow outward in terms of, you know, the much celebrated youngsters you spoke about? You referred to them as the Carabao lads, and that's a fair way of thinking about it, because they all got to have this great involvement in a trophy win, and as a result, I think have elevated their status in the eyes of fans. A lot of these kids, and then some of them with reasonably consistent performances in that period of the season. You know, the likes of, specifically, I'm thinking Bobby Clark. These guys really did sort of elevate their profile to the extent that now people are thinking, well, these are precious assets and we're allowing them to go, and are we getting the right money for them and all the rest of it? You can understand a little bit of nervousness around that, but there's a phrase that you used that I just want to focus on. You were talking there about how, look, this is the new era. This is the new, apparently ruthless era. So there, I guess, I'm not a great one for the I trust in whoever blanket statements. That's not really me. I don't think that's you either, Dave. But we kind of do have to give them the run of things and accept that, you know, they do know what they're doing if we're going to believe the vast amount of people who have told us that this is the best thing for the club.
Yeah, it's funny. And me and you, I was thinking of me and you when we were writing this or preparing bits. We've always said, we've been quite honest, Trev, that when Edwards Hughes, you know, this whole new structure, the way of doing things came in, me and you were quite honest that we don't get high on the nerd stuff and, you know, that type of thing in the background. We like transfers, what we talk about, we enjoy it, but other people were like, this is brilliant. It's exactly what the club need. And that's fine. It's not about right or wrong. We know some of our colleagues in AI are big on this, and that is fine. What kind of confuses me a little bit is there was a lot of people were high on it when it came in, and now the suggestions they might be selling players they want to keep, it seems bad, if that makes sense. It's like, well, hold on. You either back this system, this strategy, this process, or you don't a little bit. Like, to me, I think I never look at things in terms of absolutes. I can adore a manager like I did our previous one and think there's some flaws in his decision making and the way he does things. Yeah, I can look at this regime and the style and go, I get it. This is what they're trying to do. Would I keep Bobby Clark? Probably I would. I'd look at a loan, but that's just me. At the end of the day, we don't have control over it. But if I understand the methodology, in terms of we want to do this, they've got to be this level. If we do not see a pathway to the first team, they will be sold. And you are arguing in terms of cold, hard, brass tacks, Trev, don't you? In terms of if we sell Fabio Carvalho for 27.5 million, if you sell Bobby Clark for around 10 million suggested, I wouldn't even put a figure on Ben Doka, etc. But Sepp cost about 4.4 million. Apparently, there is a clause with his previous club, but if you get around 20 million, it's not bad business, as they say, is it, in the market? And sometimes not every player you buy works out, so you may take an educated gamble, and at least if they don't make the Liverpool level, you flip it like a house almost for a profit. And it does sound cold, and it is ruthless. I get that, but it just seems to be the way we're doing things now. Put it this way. No one's getting taken to Blackpool anymore, are they? No one's getting the Kloppo Zoom calls, and all the WhatsApps. So they're like that. Those days seem to well and truly be gone. And that's fine. This is the new era, as we talked about. But to any fans that were now don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to. But we both know there was a few that were praising it at the time, and now they're criticising it. It's like you're either in or you're out. I think we said we look at each deal individually, because sometimes good people make bad deals. It's simple as that. And time will tell if Bobby Clark departing proves to be good. But yeah, I think we were maybe not down, but not as high on it as other people. So it could be a bit hypocritical if people are now panning it, put it that way.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be going that way. I can't help but notice that behind you, you have a glorious Alison Becker scarf. And before we get to a story that may well, like we've touched on it last week, that may well have a sort of a little bit of sadness around it, but I think ultimately looks like being one of the pieces of business that we were hoping these guys would do. I just want to have a quick word about Luis Diaz, because again, just stuff I've noticed, and there's nothing, I'm not asking you to pull a story from your hat, because I understand there isn't one, but it is weird how people just keep churning out this PSG link, this Barcelona link, despite the fact that there doesn't seem to be anything to that. Do you think he's just found himself part of the churn and is not perhaps as attractive an asset for the club as maybe they might have thought originally?
I think so, a little bit. That we've said before, it's nothing new really, but Luis Diaz, would like to move to a warmer climate, different league, a bit like Julian Alvarez a little bit, you could say. So I don't think there's a secret to that. However, as has also always been known, Trev, someone's got to pony up and put the money on the table. Liverpool have been quite clear what it takes. Now, there doesn't seem to be anyone, as it seems, willing to do that yet. I'm saying yet because there's a few weeks the transfer window left, and we've talked before about, that the info we got around for Barca journos, that they had interest in him. However, it seems that they did pick Nico Williams. It seems like there's another winger potentially on their radar, as we'll come to later on, because of the finances and everything involved, etc. So at the moment, someone's actually got a bid for Luis Diaz. We talked about it a bit, haven't we? It's one of those. But as much as we can speculate on what could happen, and I've seen even people go, the Saudis will come in for him last minute. There's nothing that validates that at all. I'm not saying it won't happen, but until someone actually ponies up for Luis Diaz, it's all willy, won't he? Yeah,
I agree entirely. I wonder what his old man would make of a move to Saudi. Not sure that's really what he's looking for. Seems to be quite the party boy, old man Diaz. Last thing then is to return to that goalkeeper story. And like we said, it may be tinged with a little bit of darkness. We saw the pictures and videos of Alisson returning, and of course everyone became instant body language experts, and he looks miserable, and look at the way he's looking over at Arne Slot like he's that's not Jurgen. And people are, and by the way, that you had in the last show particularly was good information that like actually makes sense, that he and his wife were very close to Jurgen and his missus, and These are the things that make a difference for sure. But I don't think he's going to be like a sullen child coming back to work. And, I think people might have been a bit fanciful there. However, it does look as if it's a reality we may have to get our heads around, that, at the end of this season or the next season, that Alisson may well be looking at going elsewhere or doing something else. We have this sort of very ambitious bid going ahead from Marmadashvili. Where does that stand? Because this one does actually strike me as a very sensible thing to do. Hugely highly rated talent, still quite young. He can continue to develop while we loan him after buying him, and hopefully then he comes in as the finished product if and when we need him. So there's a lot to like about this deal. Where are we at with it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this. And I also think, as we talked about a short while ago, this is a sign of almost the new era, the new way of doing things, because nothing like this would be countenanced under Jurgen Klopp, would it, previously at all? But now it feels like we are looking in terms of windows ahead, succession planning as we used to. I mean, it was always talked about, wasn't it, that Edwards looked 3 windows ahead, I think it was the famous phrase. So this feels like one of those moves. Yeah, latest again asking around, so we stood it up last week. Sorry, a lot of people saying, yeah, absolutely, there was truth in this. To be fair, Valencia's sporting director spoke on their situation because they're quite close on the financial line, shall we say, and actually talked about certain players that had offers made for them and said we've turned down 2 offers for Marmadashvili, spoke that directly. Again, it's almost a bit similar that we are negotiating, we are speaking to them. Again, maybe it's that word, ruthless. We don't want to pay top whack for potential, do we? This is how we operate. Part of the reason this is coming in is because we like his stats and his, the way he profiles in terms of almost like Alisson at Roma. There's that element to it. We also then like the other half of the equation where Valencia are a little bit short of cash themselves, aren't they? So they're not going to pay top whack. They want to again do one of those good deals. And also they know that it's going to be he either stays at Valencia or alone if they do it as well. So it's all just waiting. It almost feels like the cards are on our side of the table, but it's a game of chicken at the same time, because Valencia obviously want to do a deal probably. They can't say that, but they don't want to do it at peanuts because he's their sort of top prospect, if you want to call it that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I mean, this is my opinion. This is separate from the info I've been given. I think it could happen. I think it will happen, but it's not a priority, is the Trev? Let's be honest, with all the things we've got going on, the captain speaking about his contracts, the others to do contracts, players like Zubimendi to get in the door. It is not priority, but I just feel at the end of the window, this could be one that lands just on the button.
Yeah, I agree. And you've mentioned the Virgil contract. We should just talk about that briefly before we go into the Premier League stories, because it was very interesting that there was a tweet from the Times this morning which referred to the club needs new signings to compete this season as FSG's management comes under scrutiny. It reappeared without that tag on later on, and just said, Virgil reckons we need new signings to compete, which is, I guess, less judgmental and different framing. What did you make of that? There could be nothing to that, or there could be something to it in terms of messaging. And we know so much of this is about messaging and propagandistic sort of, information coming out in the way that the club wants it to. Or what do you make of this Virgil situation in terms of his contract? I just honestly don't see any danger of him not extending or having the desire to do that himself as club captain. And where does he go, honestly? So that's me, but maybe I'm being hopelessly romantic about that. What's your take on the Virgil situation?
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.